The following is rated TV MALSV. It contains strong language, violence, and nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 10 of Kommunity Kerbals. I am your host, Devious Dave Rose, and there's still a lot to do today because we are on a mission, and I'm glad for everyone joining us here today. Let's see here. Shout out to Chad in the chat. Let me just use my newly assigned computer for this, DocsBox 4, with its touchscreen, which is, for someone like me who's hardcore old school, it's quite a new fandangled type experience. I do like to touch. Shout out to Chad. Shout out to Eric Connolly. Says, when it comes to space, I have just one question. What's it's in it? Well, speaking of that, I did consider making a character for Dr. Earl, but he failed the admission, so he's gonna have to try again for that. But we've got more things to do today in Kerbals, and if anyone wants a character made of themselves and they're not already created, then just let me know in the chat, and I'll make one for you. But the mission today is we are getting a space station into orbit, come hell or high water. I promise this to viewers, as well as this is the natural progression of our plan to essentially create a space station in orbit that will allow us to refuel in the future. So we clearly have a problem here. Let's see if maybe by eliminating this stage, which we had problems with last time, may adjust our problem accordingly. So we have shroud. Yeah, all right. So this is our... See, I'm not sure if we have enough power to get into orbit. Regardless, this is a worthy expenditure. We're going to see if we can get Cloud Station into orbit, despite its previous failures in its launch capability. But this is the engineering procedure. Sometimes, just like SpaceX, you got to send up a rocket that you know is going to fail so that you can gather enough telemetry and data to determine what exactly is failing. Regardless, as these motherfuckers are getting a space station, come hell or high water. So let's do this. And already, we are experiencing some very precarious situations here. Problem. We made a totally new launch system for this. Alright, so we've returned some stability here. We're going to eject the... Nope. We want to eject the fairings. Alright, so now, the idea is to get ourselves into a maneuver here. And... Oops, no. Okay, good. No, that's not exactly what we want. But regardless, let's just quit that. Add maneuver. We need to straighten out our orbit, 39, 481, that's not going to work. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is point towards prograde. We got to get ready for our burn maneuver. It's not going to be pretty, unfortunately. Got about 54 seconds. See if we can do this manually. Ugh. Okay, well. Fuck. We are really unstable here. And we've got to get pointing to prograde so that we can try to burn in the direction we need to try to circularize. Come on, baby. Trying to manually do this. This rocket is way too powerful for this insertion. Might be able to pull this off. Fuck. It's worth a shot. See if we can do this. Yeah, we're dealing with an extremely powerful rocket that is destabilizing our ability to get into orbit. Shout out to Almighty One in the chat. I can't see your image from here. Alright, well, this is clearly a failure. We're not going to be able to attain orbit. Well, at least it doesn't look like. Let's see what we can accomplish. I mean, if it's already going to burn up in the atmosphere. We're already at maximum throttle. And we're going to be dipping into the atmosphere fairly soon. Alright, well, let's revert the flight back to our launch assembly here. So clearly what we have is a problem with our launch capabilities. Question from Eric Connolly. Do you think Tommy's fart could produce enough force to propel the rocket into orbit in addition to producing a quarter, of course? It's quite possible. You never know. Alright, so what we need to do here is we need to lower our center of gravity. And we need to add some stability here. So, because these are all gimbaled, what we're going to do is remove these entirely, add a new rocket, which will be this one. Actually, no, hold on. There's a better one. So we're going to do this one. This should provide some better stability. Let's see here. Okay, so we need new stage. Yep, that's right. So the rockets fire first, then the release. We've lowered our center of gravity, but we do want to we do want to boost it, but we're gonna go with this. Well, thank you for the praise there on the videos, but you're not going to find always drama on this channel. Sometimes you're just going to have simple things like this. So, let's see whether or not this particular model will get us where we need to be. So, so far so good, but that could change at any point. A lot more stability in this one, I notice. And again, what we're trying to do is, by the time we're getting to 10, we're going to want to go east 90 degrees. So that we can get this to 100. So, turn ourselves a bit. Still going through the atmosphere here. Okay, so we've got the perfect, yeah, we've got a nice equatorial orbit. We're going to add a maneuver here. '73, 81. I don't like this getting too far up. Yeah, you know what? I think we're going to put our station at 130 kilometers up. It's a good parking orbit. And we're just about ready to fire. We're going to point towards our target here. Supposedly a 3-minute burn time. We'll see about that. About 30 seconds before we finally do this. What we will do is we will move our fairings here because those should have gone off. Doesn't look like they're coming off. Deploy. We know those are now going to end up in the ocean here, or burnt up in the atmosphere. And here we go. Oops. No, that's not what we want. We need to be pointing towards our target. This is clearly a problem with our design here. Way too unwieldy. But we should be able to recover if we don't get too nuts here. Alright, so now we get to see whether or not this was another fuck up, or if we'll actually be able to get into orbit. I think we're gonna have to use boosters here, people. We're at 96 kilometers up. I don't think we can burn off those 500 meters per second to get this thing to get us in orbit. All right, well, let's go back. Try this again. So now we know we have a nice stable launch here from this, but we need some more oomph. So let's see. We're gonna add some SAS here, or sorry, some RCS fuel. Where's the big one? That's weird. It's very weird. Used to be a bigger one. Bigger fuel tank than this one. Well, what we need to do is we need to get this motherfucker into space. By the way, people, there may be a show tonight. Ken may be doing a show tonight, so keep your eyes out for that. I may, if he doesn't do one, I might do one. I'm not too sure yet, but yes, I will be debuting very soon the newest mystery, conspiracy, paranormal show that I will have. So keep your eyes out for that. Title will be announced once it goes. I don't want to give anyone the idea and then they'll try to run with it, as we all know they do. So let us see if we can maybe get this into proper orbit. So, following our timeline, this is more like a Skylab base, space station. which was launched by a derivative of the Saturn V. I believe it was the Saturn 4B. No, it was the Saturn V that launched that, and a 4B that launched the astronauts in their Apollo craft, their Apollo CSM, to get to this station. The plan was to get these shuttle to boost it into a higher orbit so it wouldn't fall back into the atmosphere, and then basically start adding pieces onto it. Alright, so looking good. We got that extra oomph. There were solid rocket boosters. We are about 2/3 of throttle. Just about ready to start moving towards the east with our roll. Attempting to roll. We're having some difficulties here. Oh. Yes. Well, that's not exactly where we want it to be, but we do have fuel. Ugh, no. We're not going to do this. That's not what we want. Back again. This is not giving me what I want. So, let's get some more fuel. Too small. And soon enough, we shall build the Mars Express, which will have a DJ booth, like I said the other day, a stripper pole, and a bunch of community Kerbals who will be partying there in orbit. And it will be an exclusive club, only available to a special few. So, 2/3 throttle, SAS on, and let's launch this motherfucker. So we're going to keep our eye on our orbit as well as altitude here. Good stability, I'm liking. I'm liking it a lot. We're about 4 kilometers now. SRBs are almost out. This is good. Start to angle now. Oof. And that's the problem. When you do it quick and dirty and you don't have rockets to sort of separate the solid rocket boosters with enough thrust, then you lose your engines. So let's do this again. There we go, little separatrons. And we want them to go in that direction. Nice 45-degree angle. Boom. Clone. And now we just reverse it. Perfect. Alright, so also we want this fucking fairing to be removed once we're in orbit, so we gotta remember that. So, alright, so we want our main rockets and our solid rocket boosters to go. And these are all our separatrons. So what we want is these to go off at the same time as these. No, or not. No. Good job, Dave. Alright, so we want main engines first. Separate. Then we want the separatrons. We want these at the same time as the rockets. So once these separate, these things fire off at the same time. They don't wait for us to stage the, or initiate the stage. After these are ejected, right, yeah, then we have the ejection of this, but no, we want the ejection of the fairings first, and then for this to eject. But hold on, what is this? What's a sepratron? Yeah, that makes sense. And this motherfucker, that engine, and we should be in orbit. And this, that's why. I'm wondering if I need to add. Yeah, I probably will. This is a problem though, because that large size doesn't seem to exist. Let's see what I can do. Bear with me here, people. So we got that. Here's what we're going to do. That's not going to work exactly. So we're going to do this the crude way. So there's that. Actually, hold on. Fly me to the moon. Let me play amongst the stars. We need RCS, that's the reason why we're doing this. RCS being our booster fuel, or not our booster, sorry, our maneuvering fuel, which allows these rockets here to maneuver our location in orbit. And let's see here. I like this because it's very similar to to Skylab, which was not necessarily cobbled together by certain components, but definitely not the most clean cut of space stations. So we already have our first announced Space Force Marine team, which will consist of Danny MT, VP, and Chad. So they will be tasked with certain critical missions that will see them potentially in craft and technology that the rest of the astronaut roster don't normally get access to. And that might include even a UFO or two. So keep that in mind for future adventures. So we're looking good here. Adding some extra fuel and RCS. Just bear with me here. I just want to complete the rolling of this joint. Pardon me. All right, I think we're ready to push on again. Right now we're benefiting from Cold War, so our budget is through the roof, so we can afford to construct an entire space station and see whether or not we can get into orbit. So it's part of the largesse of being a worldwide superpower. So let's do a little quick save here. Examine our phallic object. And let's work. Chad says, "Oh shit, Kerbals versus aliens in a dogfight with UFOs. Hope VP is ready to lead." Well, it'll be dropships and fucking, emergency sort of rescues and shit. So perhaps a few shoot downs. All right, so we are ready to rock. We are ready to get Clout Lab Station into orbit. And we may change the name in the future. That's always possible. Again, I did make the call out for all the viewers yesterday to give us an idea, but apparently nobody's creative. So we have almost the same setup as before, but now we have these separatrons that will allow us to hopefully get these rockets separate, these solid rocket boosters separated quick enough so that they don't bash into our engine. But we've solved the stability issue, it appears. And again, so what we've shown is that at the speeds that we're going, we're going to continue to experience that. So since it's only a few kilometers extra of the altitude we're seeking, we're going to wait to bleed that off, eject them vertically, and then begin our turn. Hopefully we'll be able to maintain the momentum necessary so that we can get into the proper orbit without wasting too much fuel. Let's say I do very much like this new DocsBox 4 with this touchscreen computer, or screen I should say. It's a notebook, but it has the touchscreen, which is cool. And yeah, lets me see things much larger than on my phone. So I just make a quick glance to it while I'm playing the game. What's our altitude? 43. I keep an eye on my angle as well as our altitude here. Actually, before we do that, I want to eject our fairings. So we're going to deploy those. Perfect. And we still have this section to get us into orbit, which is going to be the majority of this here. So once we can get this to about 100, because I like this, I like having this station at 100. I prefer it, to be honest. Just because it is at the threshold of the of both well, of basically orbit, but any ships that might have problems getting into higher orbit might be able to what's the word, rendezvous with it so that they can refuel and not fall back down. So all right, so perfect. So got a nice horizontal orbit here. We want to get ourselves equalized, and okay, so 75, let's go a little bit more, 87, that's now at 106. I can always correct it once I'm up here. No. Five, 86, 108, 90, 110, 92, 113, 94, 97, 120. Let's go with 120, I guess. I like even numbers. So, we missed our target, but it's fine. Well, I fucked up again. This is hilarious. Revert the flight again. Chad says, "Hey Dave, did you see that the FBI raided an inn Spawn, Alaska? I think Fairbanks looking for Pelosi's stolen laptop. FBI actually asked them who they worked for. Interesting. I did not hear about that. Oh look, looks like we're gonna have a problem. Revert flight again." Let's get this fucker into orbit. turn off our main engine. We're letting the solid rocket boosters do everything. Alright, so we're in orbit of 250. We're going to wait till this is pointed downwards before we eject, so we can try to use that momentum to swing them in that direction. So now we're going to point in retrograde, check our fairings, and use a little bit of RCS to get us into position. Now we still have about 3 minutes, so we're going to add a maneuver. Okay, so 40. $104, $101. So 100. Close enough. So now we want to point in the direction of our target, because we know that this is quite a lot and we're going to have to start the burn a lot sooner, and we're having obviously some stability issues here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to point in that direction now and start firing. Try to stabilize. Almost there. So we want to go prograde now so that we can increase that because that's still too low. And we still have some fuel left in this portion of the rocket, which is good because, well, it'll get us into orbit, but it'll remain in orbit. We don't really have enough in the space station to actually be able to allow us to do that. But we're just about there. Told you we would do it. Okay, so now we're stable. Still some good fuel. A little too much, but what we're going to do is we're going to wait till we're here, and then we're going to wait till we're here and reduce this orbit so it's nice and close to the Earth, and then finally eject this portion here and establish our new space station. Yet another great milestone that we've accomplished together. But the next great thing is we're going to be attaching additional modules to the space station, and we're going to actually fine-tune its orbit. And I believe we're going to be going with some alternate history here and having like a dry dock where the gate, it's like, imagine like the space station, the shuttle cargo bay, but like one of these attached to a space station. So that thing would open, you'd put in a satellite or a craft, it would close, they would work on it inside, there'd be lights and shit. Very cool concept. And that's what we're going to do. Just a little time warp. So let's use a maneuver again. Reduce our retrograde here. Whoops, nope, a little too much. Apoapsa 123, a little less. 112, 108, 112, 108, 110, 108, 110. 108, 106, 108, 106, 105, 108, 108, 101. Good enough. All right, so we're going to point towards our target. Not too much ISP needs to be expended here. Charge is looking good. A lot of monopropellant left over. And just in time for our burn. Perfect. All right, so we have now attained an orbit of 99 kilometers, 9.5 kilometers to 109, and we can continue to adjust that as we still have substantial amount of fuel left in our launcher here. But what we will do is, just to ensure that we have proper power, we will extend all of our solar panels. And it sounds like it's raining outside for me, which is weird. And so what I will do is I will rotate this around so that we get a nice view. So this forward portion here, from this striped area all the way to here, is our new space station. What happened to our fourth one? Did that break? There was supposed to be one there. Interesting. Very much like the like Skylab. When Skylab launched, there was like solar panel on one of its sides here that got caught up and it broke, and it wasn't able to launch. So they didn't have as much power as they initially planned. So I like that. It's a nice little ironic touch with a taste of historical accuracy. So the next step is to just adjust our orbit prior to ejecting this stage here, and then we'll finally have our station in orbit. So this will be very cool to launch. I think we're going to end up launching a Cloud 11 class crew module to the station to meet up with it and habitate it, as it were. So let's see here. We're not exactly on the equatorial. What do we want? We want to adjust our orbit. 99. So here we're going to want to reduce it a bit. So 101. 100. All right. Good enough. And maybe we can adjust the equatorial. There we go. Not too much. See if I can see what the damage was, because I don't see the... There it is. The solar panel should come out. There it is. You can see that this thing is just wobbling crazily. Oops, that's not what it wants. $99, $187. A very unwieldy craft, to say the least, but regardless, we're going to push with the cop we got. 101, 114, so if we can go to retrograde. Come on, retrograde. And 102. Works for me. All right. So we have our space station, but due to our excellent over-engineering, as Dave Tech conglomerate always does, we still have quite a bit of fuel left on this. Unfortunately, if we eject it, we no longer have access to all this fuel. But we are in essentially the orbit that we want, and due to the fact that it's not made for orbital adjustment, it's too powerful to adjust it even further than the accuracy that we've accomplished here. So 2,000. Less than 2,000 kilometers of a difference in regards to apoapsis and periapsis is fairly respectable, I would say. So we're going to want to ditch this stage here, because it's just going to cause us more problems, and even trying to maneuver it with it now gives us issues with stability. So we thank this stage here for its assistance, and we shall bid it adieu. Let's just be sure that our separation, yep. We're gonna Is that one? Yeah. So there it goes. And then we're going to eject the next stage. And then ignite our engines for a little bit of separation. And as you can see, both the decoupler and the rocket stage are now blissfully floating into the great dark. Now, as we await for our return to the sunny side of the planet, we actually are orbiting directly over, or almost, of Community Space Center. And we also see that we will need to adjust our orbit if we want to be absolutely perfect, which is what I like to do. And the great thing is that once we add additional parts here, we will be able to do so and boost it into a different orbit and have different things that will allow us to adjust all operations, including additional crew, which is what we're going to do right now, actually. So let's just get this thing to go a little bit of a time warp here so we can get it into the sun and celebrate our first orbit into sunlight as the Community Space Station. So we're going to actually deactivate our engine here so we don't want it to go off at any point. And just adjust our orientation so we have a nice view for all the people tuning in right now. So here we go. This is the first space station for Kommunity Kerbals. And a beautiful space station it is. A nice analog to Skylab. And quite functional in its setup. But the next step would be to get some Kerbals on there so that you can see them inside this science laboratory as well as their little hitchhiker pod here. And yeah, the challenge with that is the rendezvous. The rendezvous can be challenging because essentially, and this, you know, if you thought some of this stuff was boring, well, you know, watching, because if you play this, it's like you're literally, it's white knuckle tight because it's difficult to calculate things, and a rendezvous, for example, would require you to launch from this point here. So when this capsule is finally over this point, you're coming in underneath. Anything closer to the planet goes quicker. So this thing is going to catch up quick. What it needs to do is it needs to catch up, and as soon as it's in the same orbit, it needs to slow down exactly the same velocity as that object that's already in orbit. And on top of that, you've got to orient it in the proper way so that because a few degrees off in space will lead you to hundreds of miles of a difference. So it's got to be calculated right. At the last moment, things can fuck up. And you've got to be quick to address these sorts of fuck-ups so that you've got some sort of backup system in place that you can compensate for anything that might occur. So, these things are actually fairly big deals because although we take them for granted now, back in the 50s and 60s, this was the way that they determined was the best way to get to the moon. And just the concept alone of doing an in-orbit rendezvous is like it's like finding an atom in a haystack. not a needle in a haystack, an atom in a haystack. And it's the challenge and to use the math. I mean, these guys did it with slide rules and shit. They actually did it with fucking mental calculations and pieces of wood that had little counters on them. You know? Well, those are abacuses. You know, that's slide rule. That's a different thing. But regardless, that's 2 pieces of fucking moving wood. Boom. So this, to me, blows my mind. And it's just incredible what the testament that it says to about human ingenuity. But let's look back here and see our beautiful station floating over Kerbin. Beautiful, actually. Again, a very, very similar analog to Skylab. This one has 2 workable solar panels as opposed to the one that was destroyed during the launch of Skylab. And yeah, the big thing now is to get a crew up there, because we launched this just like Skylab. Skylab was launched autonomously, and it was all controlled essentially from the the various command locations, whether it be Houston or Kennedy or Cape Canaveral. But yeah, I think this is really cool. We've accomplished a fair bit, actually. And this station is actually looking good in regards to all its fuel, its monopropellant, and as soon as we get a few ships up here, we can actually restock the fuel. So if we end up using some of this fuel to adjust our orbit, and it depletes, it's a simple matter of getting a ship up here and doing a fuel transfer. And those are really cool as well. Speaking of which, that's what SpaceX is proposing when it comes to getting a ship to the moon or Mars. One of their Starship craft is to send up a Starship that's specifically filled with fuel and let it dock a la Requiem for a Dream, ass to ass, and refuel that way. And I'm not fucking joking. Well, I'm joking, but I mean, I'm not lying in this shit, because that's exactly how Elon Musk has proposed to have his spaceship there, fucking whatever he's going to call it, because it's always changing its name, refuel. Ass to ass. But I'm very pleased, actually. I do like the fact that we forgot to deploy these. How could we ignore such a frivolous choice? After all, we are playing sandbox, so it means nothing to have an antenna that can transmit data, because we're not transmitting data, because that's what gives you in-game points, and we're not doing that. But it looks purty. So, and yeah, there we go. We've got this beautiful station, and we want to dock with this. We want to send a crew up there. I don't know if there's anyone in the chat right now that actually wants to be sent up there. Let's actually go to the astronaut complex. I cannot talk today, sir. Must be the cannabis that I've been smoking, the reefers. All right, so what do we got here? We got all these individuals. Mars, Nikki, and Ken. They're still recovering from their mission to the moon. They're enjoying a nice presser, traveling the country, getting their dick sucked. We got me there. I'm ready anytime, anywhere. I'm also normally here at Community Space Command, because I am the flight director, and You know, I can't send these people out there if I'm not willing to do it myself. So obviously, I've got my character ready to go, especially if I need to rescue them from one of my engineering fuck-ups. But, you know, I'm not the star of the show. It's the community. Hence the Kommunity Kerbals. Speaking of community, we've got Tiff Kerman, who right now is the only female character that I've created, because I can't think of any other character. I mean, maybe Amanda, or I don't know. You know, this is one that we don't want to send on a suicide mission. But hey, maybe we want to send some of the other community females onto some sort of mission. Send them to a faraway planet and let their let their periods synchronize, and they just fucking kill each other on that planet. Then we got Bullfrog here, who is the community hoe, as many people have addressed him as. And I'm a little too stoned right now to remember who it was that gave him that name, so I do apologize. And rather than guess and fuck it up, I'll just say I don't remember. Oh, that's right, Inspector Todd. Okay, well, why don't you tell us your real name? How about that? Tell us your real name. JR4 the Third is Kerman. Kerman is there. S.E. Steve, who is, you know, an absolute demon, and there's a special fate should be reserved for him. You know, not just having him fucking explode with a rocket with Mello. You know, this guy needs a special fate. It's a fate different from Mello. Then there's VP. Danny MT, and Tommy NC Kerman. Now, VP and Danny MT are reserved. Oh, I didn't make a character for you, Chad. I thought I did. But, VP and Danny MT, they're part of the Marine, the Space Force. They're gonna get a special shuttle, like drop ships. Like when shit hits the fan, they're gonna be sending these guys in with their fucking special, you know, black operations equipment, and we're gonna see some crazy shit, because again, you never know. I mean, you do have YR, Tony, and Keith on the moon, and their job was to establish a moon base, but considering how crazy they are, they might try to just take over the entire complex, and, you know, Space Command won't allow for it. So in my position as flight director, I might need to call up on the special operations space forces to basically take that base, and essentially, if they need to, kill every one of those individuals that decided to take over that base. So you never know what's going to happen here at Kommunity Kerbals, because not only is this deliciously comedic, but it's also satirical and a warning to those in a very tacit manner to stay in line, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So, read what you want into it, but if you're intelligent, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, watch out for the Marines, because they're going to be storming shit. And remember, there are technologies. I can actually get some plugins and shit that let you use lasers and nukes, but I can actually craft a very capable anti-satellite or anti-spacecraft missile using just the stock components without any plugins. So it will be glorious to see. So now, what we want to do is we're going to have to set up a team up there to that space station, I believe. And actually, let's see here. That might take some time. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that on this one, because the orbital mechanics would require some time to explain, and yeah, we're gonna, you know what? We're gonna hold off on that. We're gonna add to the space station, absolutely. And prior to that, we're gonna actually have a team visit it so that they can inhabit the space station. And yeah, from there, we'll go from that. So, but I'm trying to think of what else I do plan to do. So let's look back at our tracking station here. See what we got going on. So, Clout Lab Station is in orbit, a beautiful, stable orbit, ready to be inhabited by a new crew. Clout 12 is currently on the moon, and that's YR, Keith, and Tony. And they found the. Let's go back to their location. When we last left them, the crew of 3 misfits had discovered the location of the mythical arch. After landing in the foothills and planting a flag, they sent the necessary information back to the planet to let them know that they were ready to colonize the moon. But little did Community Space Center know that the 3 were suffering from severe space insanity. Tune in next time to find out what happens. But yeah, I'm still very, very pleased with my direct ascent, a direct descent rocket, which is again it's a very retro design. Because if you look back into, oh shit, that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. Let's That's why you deactivate your engines, people. Why, people? Why? So here's the thing, though. You can program when you make these things in the vehicle assembly building, you have the ability to bind keys. That means basically that you can, tell it so that all the engines, it's not a bad landing, all the engines, deactivate with one button. And I could easily have done that, but taking the quick, cheap, easy way out. and this is the result. But then again, you could also just do this, which is tedious and unnecessary. Or it should be unnecessary, but see, the problem is this fucking stupid navigation wheel. But you can shut down each of these engines. You just have to remember to activate them. All right. Well, there we go. Afternoon, Danny MT. Afternoon, JR4 the third. Yeah, it's just been a slow day, and really weird weather. So I think it was like 46 Fahrenheit just a little while ago. So, but yeah, what we're doing today is establishing our force in space, and we got ourselves a new space station. And the issue really is, I'm sure that people aren't, I don't know, yeah, I gotta see some interaction in the chat, but I don't think people want to see me actually do the work to try to what's it called, do a rendezvous in orbit with the space station, because it takes time, and sometimes I'm just like so caught up with the looking at all the different measurements, trying to calculate things properly, that I'm not speaking. So I'm not sure if people even care to just tune in, and I don't really want to. I don't know. I don't want to waste your time. If I could be playing this on my own without streaming, and just, what's the point of streaming and just not talking? Then it's just like, what's everyone's enjoyment? Like, I should be adding something if I'm going to be, streaming the game. If not, I could just play alone, just not talk to myself. But we've got this thing here. This has 112 days to get to this point. So this is the BWC rocket, very, very large, probably the largest, sent into a terminal orbit with the sun of this system, and should be interesting what happens once it gets there. We've got let's see here. And that's right, the Kommunity 1 capsule, along with Cronin and Kerman, who celebrated their voyage through orbit, being the first Kerbal to successfully orbit the planet and make it back alive. But if we take a look at our astronaut roster, we actually see those that are lost and missing: Bird, D. Welsh, Mello, and a bunch of other no-names. But there they are right now, and that's where they're going to stay, even if I have to hack the fucking registry to make sure that they stay there. But we do have several that we can send on other missions. And have our CurbSat 1 and 2 doing their jobs, transmitting the drama all across the globe. But we definitely want to add some additional components to this space station here, and we're going to need a crew that's going to be able to inhabit it. So we're going to need to intercept it, dock with it, and transfer the crew over. And we have quite a lot of space to go, because this is our science lab, and this is our additional crew quarters. So we definitely have a lot that we can deal with. But to be honest, I think that's where we're going to call an end to it, with this beautiful space station, just like I promised. And soon enough, we will get a new crew there. So, on that note, I do appreciate everyone who did tune in today. And be sure to stay tuned to see whether or not Ken is going live tonight. And yeah, that should be good if he goes live. So, hope everyone has a great weekend. And